/WakeUpCallDT and on internet streaming radio, wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So however you're tuning in with us, we appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And of course, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, every other Tuesday, our bi-monthly exclusive segment with the champ is here. Christy Salters-Martin joining us in Christy's Corner. And we appreciate you being here, as always, for the International Boxing Hall of Famer. Very excited today, as always, as Christy joins us. Pat Orr, boxing photographer and owner of PB&J's Lunchbox, our exclusive partner in this segment, will join us as well, and we'll be featuring special guest actor and producer Linds Edwards will be joining us here, who is starring in the upcoming movie Beatdown with Christy Salters-Martin. So we'll be coming up here in just a moment with all of them, and very happy to share that with you in hour number 2. We'll have Dave Pasiak joining the show to speak on the NBA playoffs, the future of LeBron James, as well as the Denver Nuggets advancing to their first ever NBA Finals. And we'll round out the show as we always do on a Tuesday with the ingredients to success, proudly brought to you by the wonderful people at Avicolli's on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York. So, with that being said, it is my honor and my privilege to bring you Christy's Corner with Christy Salters-Martin here. And like I said, special guest coming on the show for the first time ever, and we appreciate him spending some time with us. Linds Edwards joining us here on the broadcast, and Pat Orr. So, good morning to everybody.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, everybody.
So, Christy, first and foremost here, you got to spend some time with Linds Edwards, who's a guest on the show for the first time ever today in the upcoming movie Beatdown in the filming. So I'd love for you to let us know and give us a little window into the world of working with Linds.
Well, it was a really cool experience working with Linds. The crazy thing about this whole film with Beatdown was Linds was the only real actor involved. The rest of us were like me, boxers, trying to be an actor. And so he was like the solid force that tried to keep all the rest of us in line and on script. But it was easy. That was the really most cool thing about it was Linds made it easy, not like you're walking on pins and needles and scared. Oh my God, if I miss a line or if I say the wrong word, he's going to get irate because this is what he does. So one day the roles kind of got reversed because it was one of the first days, and I started showing Linds some boxing stuff, throwing jabs, throwing right hand straight, a hook, so he was in my court. He was, in my field then. So the roles did get reversed, but it was only just a short amount of time. The rest of the 2 weeks, I was on his court. So, it was awesome to work with him. He's been, oh my goodness, he's worked with the greatest of greats in the acting world. And, it was a lot of fun to hear his stories from the experiences with those guys.
Linds, to hear all of that, what's your response and what was it like to work with Christy?
I think the coolest, for me, one of the coolest moments was realizing that, that here's Christy, here's Trey, these are pro fighters. They're athletes. They're great at what they do. And I will say equally, I'm great at what I do. But we were stepping into each other's rings, and I thought it was so cool because I had the understanding of how Christy felt and how Trey would feel. Like, I've never done this before. Because when I stepped in the ring and I was like, is my footing right? Are my hands right? And so I think that helped in developing these characters in this story because we were all able to be on the same page in different ways. And the thing is, I say this everywhere I go and everything I do about movies. I love making movies. I love it. I absolutely love movies so much, and I feel like I want people to share in the enjoyment that I have. I think playing pretend as a kid it was my escape. It was my favorite thing to do, and now I'm living. And I wanted Christy and I wanted Trey to be who they wanted to be in a movie. Be the character, be the fighter you wanted to be in a movie, or what have you. And I think the only way to do that is with fun and having fun and making it. I think pressure is such a silly thing. We're not saving lives. We're not. we're just playing pretend and having fun, and that's what it should be, you know. And I feel like we did. I feel like we accomplished that for real in this movie, and it shows. You know,
from the word go, Dan, it was so clear that Linds loves his job like I loved my job. Yeah. I mean, he absolutely 100% loves doing, like he said, you know, I'm sure I grew up being a play actor, you know, like you probably drove your mom crazy, but he was in his element. He loved it, and he tried to keep me calm and not like so scared. You know, I didn't want to waste his time. That was the bottom line, really. I didn't want to waste his time because this guy's a real actor, and I don't want to, you know, like I can't screw up. So the pressure, I understand what Linds is saying about pressure kind of sucks, but pressure also motivates people, and I'm one of those that pressure definitely motivates me. But yeah, I was scared.
Well, and equal to that, I didn't want the boxing community to be like, oh, come on. Look at this actor out here. Oh, come on. That's baloney.
And the fight scenes in Beatdown are really cool, and Linds did a hell of a job actually with this fight scene. So the fight scenes are going to be really great. When people get to see this movie, they're going to be like, wow. And we did them all rather quickly.
So, Linds, I have to ask you this: did Christy make a good fighter out of you?
Well, she made me tougher. That's for sure. I don't know if she. We didn't have enough time, but I know that she could make me a machine. That's for sure.
Yeah, Linds, to your defense, you didn't get to go through a training camp. You went through like a 10-minute training there to learn your skill.
Well, one of my buddies, David, he trained with some pros in Denver, and he's a good friend of mine. And we did about 4 days of just some fundamentals. And when I say 4 days, it was like 2 hours.
Yeah, right.
2 hours a day for 4 days. Yeah. So I got to see and feel the bare bones. I wasn't able to really develop a muscle memory for it, or right. Clearly, people spend years and years and years. And I think that was my thing, and thank God for our director and the writer of the movie, making my guy out of shape. And he hadn't been in the ring in a while. I was like, this will work. This is going to be great. You know? And then you've got Christy.
And one of the funny things was Keith Barr was actually one of Linds' opponents. Keith Barr is a professional fighter that has about 40 or 50 pro fights. And he didn't exactly understand holding up when they started. I mean, even his hold up speed was pretty strong. So it took a second to get all that like in the right for the movie.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is having Christy and having Trey and having Keith and the pro fighters that are in it. Like wherever I fail, they pick up, and it looks awesome. It's like okay. Yeah, it was really cool. It was a really great experience too. Like, I mean, I just adore Christy. I adore you. Like, I think about you. We talk about you, and it was so much fun being in this movie with her as well. Like, it was so cool. Like, it's like you're growing with somebody every day, and I loved it. And I absolutely loved it. To see, like, one of my favorite things in life is to watch people do what they love to do and then succeed at it. You know, so to see Christy every day just crush this movie, it's something that she's unfamiliar with, and have fun doing it. That I'm like, that's it. That's for me. That's it. You know.
That's awesome.
So Christy, you know, for this, like you said, you know, you're working with Linds and he's in the acting world, you're in the boxing world. How did you give and take from each other, and what did you learn in the acting world? We asked it, you know, I asked Linds if he was made a boxer from you. So do you feel like you have better acting chops now that you work with Linds Edwards?
Well, I'm not going to find a new career. I'm sure of that. But what I did learn, what was like the most important thing that I learned, and it's kind of obvious, but until you're really trying to do it, you don't think about it. But it was just not to just memorize my lines to listen to what the person I'm having a conversation with says, because if you just listen to what they say, then you kind of know what the response is going to be. You know, and you don't have to be word for word on everything. Just as long as we gotta stay in the ballpark. But I was so worried about just memorizing my lines instead of actually listening to what the other actor was saying.
So, Christy, for you, this opportunity and this moment, what can you tell us about this movie? Why are you excited about it? And with Beatdown finding its way to us in the not too distant future, what do you want us to know about this?
Well, my draw to it was, of course, West Virginia, because it was set in West Virginia. It's a West Virginia family. It's about the tough man, and that's where I started. Actually, we filmed with Jerry Thomas, who promoted my tough man fight way back in the day. So it was just a lot of fun to be home, to be with my people. And from that, I'm going to put two of those guys that are in the Beatdown movie, two of the professional fighters, will be on my show July 29th in Myrtle Beach. And that's Trey Stout and Zach Randolph. Both will be in Myrtle Beach, fighting. So hopefully West Virginia will come up and support us in Myrtle Beach, July 29th.
I love that. And Linds, I have to ask you this. You and I were talking about it off the air, but you have connections to shows that have definitely caught my eye. Nashville, Vampire Diaries, as well as Under the Dome, which I was a fan of on CBS. And then I have to shout out The Walking Dead, because I never thought that I would like a show about zombies, but I do. And
I never thought that I would be on a TV show about zombies.
and I know that you took a picture with Andrew Lincoln and seeing him, as Rick Grimes and everything that he became and whatnot, as well as John Bernthal, who's, today's Punisher. So what was it like to have the career that you've had so far? Like you said, you believe you're good at your job. You love what you do. You love to play this make-believe. So what can you say about, the journey that you've had so far? And I selfishly want you to talk about Walking Dead at some point within that.
All right. Well, I think I've done everything pretty old school. Like, I didn't want to just jump into being a movie star or any of that kind of stuff. I wanted to actually learn about the movie business. I wanted to play roles and build into it, because I had a really good friend of mine when I was younger coming up in this, and he was like, "Look, man, this isn't a sprint. This needs to be a marathon. You don't want to just show up and then be gone." And I took that as I wanted to learn everything about it. Also, I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to do this. I don't have any family members in the business. I didn't have any, at the time when I started off. Well, Walking Dead was my third big movie job ever. And I got with my agents a few years before. And you got to know when somebody says that there's going to be a zombie drama TV show, you're like, huh? There's going to be a zombie TV show. Okay, how's this going to go? But all right, let's do it. Let's see what happens. And so I kind of took whatever I could get, up front, whatever I could audition for, whatever. And so, like I said, a zombie TV show, and this guy named Leon Bassett, he's a deputy, and I was like, oh, this will be fun. So we're talking about like a Barney Fife kind of guy or something, And I was like, and I told Frank Darabont, I was like, can I keep my mustache? And he was like, yes, please. As a matter of fact, I've talked about John Bernthal quite a bit lately, and he's such a cool dude, legitimately, because he hadn't quite blown up yet. He was on his way, his time was coming. And when I met him, he was just the sweetest guy. And we actually hung out quite a bit, on set and what have you. As a matter of fact, at the Walking Dead premiere in LA, John asked me to get into this party bus that his brothers had rented to go to the after party. And it was the coolest thing to just be hanging out with somebody that you get along with. Yeah. Andy Lincoln was so funny too, because he is very British. like very British, and he would sit there and keep his like Southern American accent, and he would be like, guys, please don't let me sound like an idiot out there, you know. and it was so much fun because like we'd sit there and he'd say some words and we'd be like, Andy, that's very British how you just said that, and he'd be like, okay, I get, all right. But he was such a kind dude. Like everybody on The Walking Dead was so kind. And again, it was my third kind of big movie job. Also didn't know how big it was going to be, you know. And me and my agents live was like, man, I wish we knew what we were getting ourselves into because this thing is huge. But again, I wouldn't change any of that because of what it led me to next. Let's see. What else? What were the other ones? Vampire Diaries. Nashville, to me, Nashville was probably one of my favorite little guest star spots I did on a TV series because that character was wild.
Yeah.
And I remember the executive producer, Marshall, he called me and he was like, look, you've got a one-act play pretty much with Connie Britton. It's 13 pages, and it's all you, buddy. And we just need it to be sincere, and we need it to be real. And I love stuff like that because it's intense. It tests your own brain, you know, and your abilities to how well can I play pretend in this? And it's not easy though either, playing a stalker that's trying to kill someone, you know, that they're in love with. and it's scary. And it ends up being scary sometimes. Just and I had fans of the show that were like, "You're a weirdo" on my Twitters and stuff. And I was like, "No, guys, I'm really not. I'm not a weirdo. I'm a nice guy." But yeah, that was a whole lot of fun. I mean, and I think that's the overall for me is that every job I've done, I've had a great time. I just love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing, like you talk about the passion, and I was telling Christy off the air that last night, you know, I could have went to bed at a normal time. It was like 11:48, and I thought to myself, you know what? Let me watch Deal with the Devil. Let me see, you know, dig deeper into Christy's world because I wanted to learn about Christy from Christy, and then now that we've built a relationship over the months, I said I'm going to sit here, I'm going to watch this, and you talk about, you know, playing a role, playing a stalker, playing somebody who, you know, has to go to that evil side. Christy, your life, and I don't know how much you and Linds have talked about it, but I mean, going back and watching what you've been through, and anybody could go see it on Netflix, but going back and seeing, you know, just a window into that, an hour and whatever, 17 minutes into it, how have you evolved over time? Because Linds is playing a character, you were living real life with an actual monster.
You know what? I do believe that November 23rd, 2010, Jim Martin did kill a version of Christy Martin. And the person that was able to get up and get out of the house, get off my bedroom floor, get to the hospital, like, is a whole person. And that's like a free person. Like I am truly who I am. I have nothing to hide. Everything is out there. Everybody can watch the Netflix documentary. They can read the book, whatever. They can call and ask me, and I'll be happy to tell you anything you want to know. I don't hide anything anymore. And that's, but living that life of somebody looking over your shoulder all the time, somebody putting you down daily, it breaks you. I mean, even, as I said, 13 years later, I'm still trying to get over that, but it was 20 years of beat down and 20 years of being put down. No matter how big the success was, there was always something he could find to push my buttons to let me know that I wasn't as big as I thought I was. I wasn't as good as I thought I was. I wasn't, whatever. And it's hard. I mean, it totally breaks your soul. Now I've just been trying to put myself back together. My important thing is helping other people. And that's what we're doing with Christy's Champs. We started a cell phone donation. So people can donate cell phones to Christy's Champs and we'll disperse them to there's a domestic violence away in West Virginia, Beckley, West Virginia. They will get some of them. The Beacon Center down in Daytona Beach, they'll get some of the cell phones. The house up in Kansas City, they'll also be receiving cell phones. So, Christy's Champs is trying to do whatever we can do. And I feel like if I help one person each day, then I've done my job. Why God left me here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's a beautiful thing, and obviously we appreciate more than anything. I appreciate that you're here. Pat, do you have a question for Linds?
Let's see. Linds, you've been in some pretty big shows, pretty big movies and stuff. How did the sets compare to the set on Beatdown? Like size-wise, intensity-wise, maybe you weren't working with as many A-listers, but is it any different, or do you just do the same thing at every set you're at?
I think everyone evolves, everyone grows in everything that they do, and I think approach changes. The first movie I ever did was called Get Low, and I had a whole scene with Bill Murray and Robert Duvall.
Oh, wow.
So I had Bill Murray, and he was 2 feet in front of me, and I had Robert Duvall, and he was 6 inches to the right of me, sitting right next to me. And in between takes, he asked me a question. He goes, hey, man, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Tennessee. And he was like, well, who have you studied with? And I was like, Blockbuster. And he laughed, and he goes, oh, that's old school. And I was like, man, I've done a couple indie movies. And he looked at me and was like, well, this is an indie movie. And then he was like, you know what? It's all the same, man. He goes, it's all the same, whether it's $8 million budget or $10,000 budget. He goes, it's all storytelling. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because I think I was like 23 years old. And so Curran, the director of Beatdown, he's well seasoned. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to tell a story. He knows how to make a movie. And I think my approach is that whether it's a $50,000 budget or a $10 million, $100 million budget, I approach it all the same way. I approach like, how real can we make this? How real can we make these conversations? How real is the fighting going to look in this boxing movie? That's what matters. And overall, is this, I take pride in the fact that I am also an audience member. So when I watch movies, I watch it as how relatable is it? Like, why do I like this movie? Why do I like this TV show? And so with Beatdown, it was huge. It was huge with me. And we crunched everything in. We worked really hard. But it was big. We had an auditorium. We had a live audience. We were fighting in between actual fights. Like, it was wild. And it was so much fun. and I think there's a really, really cool thing with that. So when I think of like what we did with Beatdown in West Virginia and what I did in Berlin with Hunger Games, to me it's all the same. And it's like how real do we make this, and how much can we entertain who's watching? And so for me it's the same. If I hope that answered your question. I hope I didn't just like run around in circles there, but
no, you did. You have a job to do, and you treat it equally. It doesn't matter if it's a small one or a big one. And I think that's the important part. Like, I'm a professional photographer and now own a restaurant and cook. But as a photographer, I went into every job, whether it was big or small, and I did what I'm supposed to do. And you try to let your work reflect. That's what makes you, is your work. If your work's good and consistent, and you make the magic happen, then it doesn't matter who the people are. They're all equal.
Exactly, and I think that's another common thing between me and Christy is I know she goes 120%. I mean, look at her career, look at her life. Like, and in the same respect, when it comes to making movies, I go 120%. And so that's really fun to hear you say that too. It's like, yeah, I showed up. It doesn't matter. You know, I've seen some great movies, some incredible movies that didn't need a whole lot. They didn't need a spaceship and all these things or what have you. They just needed a great conversation. They needed a great story to tell, and we did that. We have done that with Beatdown, and again, it doesn't matter what level it's at. I love movies, and I want to share that love with everybody else too. So
that's awesome.
And Christy, and thank you, Linds, for all of that and for all the background of it, and sharing that, you know, that everything that you do, if you're consistent, like Pat said, you know, to be consistent, no matter how many people are watching or, you know, how big the budget is. I mean, it's about that consistency to be the best you can be in whatever space you're in. Christy, that's you. I mean, you go back and you watch your fights, and you might smile when I say this, but you toyed with some people that you fought against. You kind of let them think like, all right, you know what? Let them get a hit, let them get a feel, let them feel good about themselves, and I'm going to knock them out. But when you get back in a movie like Beatdown, when you get back into a ring and you get to be around that world, do you almost start to feel it again? The muscle memory, I would imagine, is always there. But when you're in a situation in a movie like this, do you start to relive? Do you put your hands, you know, right there on the ring and almost go back and picture things? Can you kind of go back and relive? Did you have any of those moments where you were almost transported back to some of your fights when you were making this movie?
Linds can tell you between scenes, I would be over there shadow boxing, you know, especially the 2 nights that we were at the Tough Man contest in Beckley, West Virginia. And as he said, they shot fight scenes between fights. So the crowd was there. It was really awesome. But yeah, absolutely. Start shadow boxing, you start feeling like, oh, wow, I can do this again. But then reality sets in. You wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, shit, no, I'm 50 something and I can't do it again. But my brain and my heart, I guess, they fight with each other because my heart says, let's do it. My brain says, you know better.
Well, and you had, you know, to go back to yours, that 50th win where you broke your hand, that was a victory. There was, 50-something seconds left. Did you channel that at all when you were within this movie and acting and trying to help out Linds's character? Did you go back and channel that moment of, you know, because as Linds was talking about, in the movie, his character is not as in shape, you know, he hasn't done it, he's getting back into it and whatnot. So did you go and channel what you went through and the adversity of Linds's character? Did you reach out to the adversity in your own life when you essentially, in my opinion, had something stolen from you?
Right. Thank you. I agree with you 100% that win was stolen. My whole thing is once I get in that boxing scene atmosphere, I'm 100% like the correct way to somebody else, but it's what I think is right. It's what worked for me. And that's where, I mean, immediately I see Linds throwing a 1-2 and I'm like, no, Linds, I don't like that. So, you know, I'm trying to help him throw it like I do. And again, that may not be the right way for someone else, but it's the right way. And it worked for me many, many times. So yeah, I was happy to be back in the boxing world, as I always am, but it was special to be there at the Tough Man contest where I started and then to be back home in West Virginia.
Linds, before we let you go, we do something on Wake Up Call called Rapid Fire, and it gives us an opportunity to go around the room and ask each other questions without any preparation. You have to answer it. Live video, live radio, all around the world. Would you like to play a round or two with us in the theme of boxing? Would you like to go a couple rounds with us?
Oh my gosh, this is intense. Yeah, let's go. I mean, we're here.
All right, so Linds, you get to ask the first question. We're going to go around and then come back. So you get to ask Christy a question.
Oh my gosh. Christy, who's your favorite actor?
Linds Edwards.
She said you.
Oh, boy.
So, all right.
You might have to ask another one. That was too easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I get to ask Pat?
And Linds is going to ask another one, and then we'll go to Pat.
Oh, man.
Go ahead,
Okay. I don't know. I'm down on the spot.
Anything in the world. First thing that comes to mind.
Anything in the world.
Yep.
So, Christy, what's your favorite color?
Pink.
Favorite color is pink. All right, Christy, you go ahead with Pat.
All right, Pat. If you were a professional boxer, if you were going to come back as a professional boxer, who would it be?
Yeah, if you come back as a professional boxer, who would it be?
Who would it be?
Yeah.
Well, I'm probably supposed to say Christy Martin.
No, not me.
Because
Somebody else.
That would be pretty crazy, but her style of boxing and like some of my favorite fighters to watch and follow were Arturo Gatti, Vinny Paz, Mickey Ward, Christy Martin. Those are the kind of battles that I was taken into to watch when I was growing up. So I would have to say that it'd probably be a combination of all those guys, and hopefully I wouldn't get hit as much as them.
Right.
But that's the fun part.
All right.
I know. For you.
All right, Pat, you get to ask me one.
Let's see. You seem to go to Disney a lot,
Yes.
and you enjoy it more than any kid that I know. The excitement when you go is just like puts a smile on your face, and yep, I'm going to be at Disney all this time.
Yeah.
What is your absolute favorite food to eat at Disney, and what's your favorite ride to go on?
All right, let's do this. So my favorite food to eat at Disney. This is a tough one because there's a lot of different things, and I pride myself on, and we have a show, obviously within my company, Do Diz with Dan, where I help people kind of find the stuff that they don't know about. And so I would say the dessert pastry, the Cheshire Cat Tail, which is based on Alice in Wonderland at Magic Kingdom, that's really good because it's like a chocolate croissant with like the Pop-Tart icing on it. So I would probably pick that because it's the first thing that came to my mind. And my favorite ride, by far, without question, used to be, well, I can't even say it used to be because it's still there with me, but Expedition Everest I love. But I have to say that Guardians of the Galaxy's Omni Coaster that goes forward, backward, and moves side to side with an IMAX theater around you that makes you feel like you're literally inside of the movie and you are running the ship. You're flying through space and jumping through different jump points in the world of Guardians of the Galaxy. It invigorates me every time. It makes me feel awesome. I only sit in the front row. And I believe that I should be called Captain Leader like Rocket Raccoon at some point in my life. So I would have to say that for sure. All right, we're gonna go around. Thank you for the question. We're gonna go around. We're gonna switch it up so we can interact with other people. So my question is gonna be for you, Linds.
Okay.
And my question to you is, who do you consider to be your biggest inspiration? Behind the camera or in front of it? So who is your biggest inspiration is number one, and what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you on a set?
Oh my goodness. All right, Johnny Depp is probably my biggest inspiration because to me he is a leading character actor. Every movie he's ever done is a different character. It's something that he's made up, and that's what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be. I want to have different voices. I want to have different looks. I want to have different. I want to play just completely different characters. And so yes, Johnny Depp would be the one in front. I'm such a huge fan of the make believe and the. Movie world, I'd have to say like George Lucas. I love Star Wars. like my favorite directors, even David Fincher, who did Fight Club and Seven and all those movies. I like, so as far as direction goes, like those are my guys. Those are the movies that I'd love to do. James Cameron, even just because a lot of my influence as a child were Terminator 2 and Aliens. You know, those are my favorite movies when I was like 8. And I credit those a lot to why I'm an actor. And what was the other one? What was the other question?
Funniest thing that's ever happened on set.
The funniest thing that's ever happened on set. Oh my gosh. I was in this movie Homefront, and they might get mad about this, and this might not be funny to everybody else, but I got hurt on that movie so much. I had to see the medic like 3 times. There was a shootout scene in a hallway, and one of the squibs blew up in my eye. I lost an earplug in my ear that the medic had to dig out with tweezers. And then in the car wreck, I roll out of the car, and I actually got a shard of glass that was like, so they're wiping off fake blood. And then they ended up wiping off my real blood, and they're like, wait a minute, that's real. And then they pulled out a shard of glass, and I was like, look, guys, I'm not a wuss, okay? I don't have to see the medic all the time. I thought that was pretty funny just because it was all just little side accidents. But it was always me. Like, again, I'm tough as nails. So, but I was like, look, I ain't no wuss, guys. I'm all right. I don't have to see the medic. And they were like, no, we need to pull this glass out of your arm. You know, and I was like, okay. I thought that was pretty funny just because I was like, again? The medic was like, again? You know, I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, I'm happy that you're okay, but I can appreciate that. I'm sure they had some fun with it when you went to see them over and over and over again.
That was the thing. Is it was like, hey, it's me again. You know, hey, it's me again. Look, it's not a big deal. I just think it's down deep in my ear canal. Maybe we can find it. Maybe not. If not, I'll be okay.
Yeah. So, Linds, you now have the opportunity to pick somebody and ask your final question.
I want to go back to Christy because I feel like my first 2 questions were silly. Christy, if you could act in a movie again, would you do it?
Probably not. Yeah, I don't know. It's very hard. I get really like stressed because I can't remember well. I did have a stroke, as I told you guys. After 2:00, my brain kind of started to shut down, it seemed like. So even though it was fun after it was over, yeah, I was very stressed. I mean, I might would do something like really small, like I only had to say 2 or 3 lines maybe. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, I have so much respect for you guys and awe. I mean, just in awe. Like, how in the heck do you remember all those lines and day after day? Yeah, it's too hard. It's too hard.
Well, I think.
Can I say something real quick, Christy, about this? On the last day that we shot, and you and I are doing that scene in the tunnel, and you are punching my lights out in that tunnel. One thing that I noticed that I wish I'd known at the beginning is that when we pulled the safety net away of having like the script closed or anything in case you needed it, when we pulled that safety net away, you didn't miss a beat. And I thought it was a really profound moment for me to realize that, like, how good you are under pressure. And I think that has a lot to do with your career in boxing. And but it was really interesting. Like, I don't know if you realized it, but when we had no help and it was just you and me in there dancing, doing lines, you crushed it. And it was so awesome. And it was so much fun. And I think you did a great job. And I think if you ever wanted to do movies again, you'd be fantastic.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it. But that was kind of amazing. Like, and I guess it's one of those things when you have a crutch, you come to rely on that crutch. And once my lines were gone from backstage and I had to remember it on my own, it did seem like I was able to, make it work.
It was great. You did such a great job in the whole movie.
It was fun. That was fun.
I'm blessed to be in this movie with you.
That was cool.
You guys got me excited to go see this movie now. So, but
It's gonna be great.
I'm very excited about it. Christy, you get to pick somebody to ask a question to.
I think, you know what, Dan, I think Pat almost touched on this, but I'm going to go back to you with this.
Okay.
What is your favorite Disney character?
Favorite Disney character. Okay. Well, I'm gonna in my office. There's a lot of representation of this, and so I would say now if I had to choose, there's two. Now, if you go originals, it's Pluto, which is funny because I speak for a living, and Pluto's the only character that doesn't talk. But I would say, Pluto is my favorite, but the off the beaten path, I call him like the bastard child of Disney because Disney doesn't really like do anything with him anymore, is Darkwing Duck. And I got to, and I don't get starstruck. I don't get like, oh my gosh, I can't. But I interviewed for Superpowered Pop, our entertainment show. I interviewed the creator of Darkwing Duck, Tad Stones. And
Awesome.
and when I interviewed him, thanks, Linds. When I sat, I was in my apartment at the time, so I had kind of made a room into a studio, and I'm sitting in the apartment, and I did this interview, and the person that I was dating at the time, she walks by, whatever, she hears me doing it. I did the entire thing, I think, on one breath. I did like 20 minutes on one breath, and then we hung up, and he was super nice, and I went, I like let the breath out. And then I sat there and I was like, I just interviewed the creator of Darkwing Duck. And I'm like, I'm saying it low and saying it louder and then louder and then louder. And she's like, yeah, okay, like, who cares? I was like, who cares? I was like, we might break up over this right now. Like, I mean, to me, that was a moment where I was like, oh my goodness. And he's like, anytime you need me, I'll be back on the show. Like, this is great to do it. And and Darkwing Duck, to me, he was such a tremendous character, and he was a big part of my childhood, to the point where I had a Darkwing Duck watch as a kid, and it's him with his cape closed, and if you want to see the time, you open his cape on your arm. And I couldn't find this watch. That was my favorite watch, so I went on eBay, and I just went down to Disney a few weeks ago, and before I left, I went on eBay. I found the watch, still like never been opened. Somebody had one, and it's like plastic everything, and I bought it from eBay, and I brought it down to Florida with me, and I wore it in Disney for the first time since I was like 13 years old.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So that was really cool for me. And then to kind of bring it to now, I was at New York Comic Con, and the new illustrator for Darkwing Duck, he was there, and we had started to build a friendship, and so James Sylvani, and I was talking with him, and I said, hey, could you do a commission for me? And he goes, yeah, what do you want me to do? I said, I want Darkwing Duck to hold up a t-shirt with my logo on it for Superpowered Pop. So in my studio, I have Darkwing Duck holding up a Superpowered Pop t-shirt, and it says new costume with a question mark. So that was like really cool moment for me. But yeah, I love Darkwing Duck. And Linds, maybe you could appreciate this as well, because when I said Tad Stones, you said this is really cool. Tad told me why he created or how he created the character. I said, what's the inspiration for Darkwing? And he said, I pictured if Batman had a daughter and stayed to raise her, and at the same time fought crime. And I thought that was such a unique approach, because Darkwing was a darker Disney character. So I thought that was really really cool and really fun. And Christy, thank you for asking me that question, because I got all types of invigorated now, and now I want to go watch all of the Darkwing Duck cartoons that I have. So that's Christy's question. Thank you, Pat. You have a final question.
For anybody?
Anybody.
Let's see. I think I'm going to go with Christy, because she's been doing a different type of job for the past week. And to see if there's any thoughts of maybe changing careers to a caregiver.
Negative. I mean, I'll be happy to help anybody, my family that needs help. But I would never change. And I have, again, a lot of respect for people in the nursing field and the caregiving field. It is very hard to give. Lisa had complete total knee surgery replacement last Monday. She's at work today. I mean, she drove herself. I drove her a couple days. On last Wednesday, I had to take her to a job site. Friday, had to take her so she could see her guys. No way. I mean, the PT people, the doctor says that she should not be out there driving, but she is. So, yeah, no, because not everybody listens. I mean, I think I'm a pretty good patient. I'll listen, I'll do what I'm supposed to do, but not everybody's that way. My dad says, and hopefully he's listening, hard heads make for soft asses. And I'm going to guarantee you, Lisa has a very soft ass because she is the hardest hit person that I think I know.
I know somebody had a knee replacement. They were in bed for months, and she's out after a week. So,
oh no, right. She's walking on a cane, just a cane for the last
my goodness
few days.
Well, she was also a fighter too, and Christy, I think you understand when you tell a fighter what to do, they're not always going to listen. So,
amen.
So, Linds, I want to thank you for coming on to the show today. We would love to have you back. I love the stories that you shared here today, and more than anything else, I appreciate everything that you got to do with Christy. I know that she's a tremendous person, and it's the first thing you said to me on the phone before we did this morning was, I just love her. So thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing, about Beatdown and different things about your career. It's moved me this morning. I think it's an awesome story, and I could feel that passion through the phone, so we would definitely love to have you back.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's been a pleasure talking with y'all today. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Linds. I'll see you in Nashville.
See y'all.
Thank you.
Take care. So
Bye-bye.
that coming here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of this segment, Christy's Corner, exclusive to Wake Up Call and bi-monthly for you here. And Pat, Christy, I have you for a few more minutes, and we thank Linds Edwards for joining the show again. But Christy, if you'll oblige me to, I want to go back because, yes, if it's okay with you, yesterday watching Deal with the Devil for the first time, because when I met you, we met at PB&J's Lunchbox on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York, that proudly brings you this segment. Shrimp taco, shrimp taco, shrimp taco. Pat, you know your job. So, but
You missed it last week.
hey, listen, I was working. So, anyways, so we met there. We met over this book, right? And Pat set it up. And Pat's a tremendous person. And when you have good people in your life and they introduce you to good people, they become great people. And Pat has not only been good to me, but she introduced me to you, introduced me to Lisa. And we, you told me your story, and I wanted to sit and just hear it. And I still can go back to that day, and you could probably go back to the video and look at my face. I remember how my brain felt when you told me things that happened to you. It felt heavy. I stopped, I looked at you, and I was like, oh my God, of everything that you've been through. And then, to hear your story, I wanted to hear you. I wanted to build my relationship with you. And then last night to just sit there and watch in the middle of the night, Deal with the Devil, and to see some of your, fights within that story, to see the 50th win that I'm going to consider the 50th win, to see, what Lisa had to say about you and all of these different elements, your parents to talk, and then to see, Jim Martin still not get it. That the entire story, it made me appreciate even more so everything that you've told me or that you've shared, and then to extend beyond that. When you did that Netflix special, what were you thinking about it? When they first called you, was it like no? And then maybe, yes down the road, like how did you finally say, you know what, I'm going to tell this story? Because to me, I'm sitting there watching a friend, and I want to cry, and I want to go through the TV and grab Jim Martin, and at the same time, I'm watching your fight, tape, and I'm jumping up and down, excited about what you're doing. There's so many emotions that I feel when I watch it. But what made you want to do it? Because it was so emotional for me to see it. I can't even imagine what it was like for you to do it.
Well, the first call came from McLean Ways, and he and his brother, they produced the Total Untold series of documentaries. So much in boxing happens that you get calls and you get offers, and then it never really pans out. So when they called, I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do a Netflix documentary. I mean, Netflix is huge. I'm never thinking they're going to call me to do a documentary. So I said yes, and not thinking I'll ever hear from him again. And actually, I did a few weeks later hear from him, and then we started with the filming. And my whole thing was, again, is this: if I can tell my story, it touches on so many different groups of people. It touches domestic violence. It touches sexuality. It touches drug addiction. There's so many people that can hopefully get something that, hey, if Christy can get up off the floor, if Christy can stop doing drugs, if Christy can do this, if Christy can be happy with her own sexuality, then I can. And I think, as I say, I may never get 100% healed, but if I can help somebody else, that's what I want to do. I just think that God left me here for a reason, and that is to make a difference in other people's lives. And I really feel that I'm doing that through the documentary, through the speaking engagements. You know, Ron Borges wrote a great book, which there's more in the book than in the Netflix documentary. So I feel like it's a healing process for me as well. When I put it out there to everybody, it's out there, like it's off me. It's hard when you hold in so much. Like it's an abuse in its own way. It tears you down to just keep hiding secrets and hiding who you really are. So just being out there and being free is the world to me.
And like you said in the documentary, I mean, you had become a person that, like who you were inside, you were kind of attacking outside. You were attacking sexuality with fighters that you're going up against, but then inside you said, like, if anybody from my past shows up, like, I'm going to have to answer to this. When you look back and you watch that, because you said a part of you died on the floor when everything happened with Jim Martin. What were you becoming in that sense of it when you were kind of, going up against homosexuality and saying different things? There was, a cockiness to the fight and whatnot. Were you becoming something because of, the money and the fame? Were you becoming something because of Jim? I mean, what were you becoming, and what do you essentially believe died on the floor?
Well, definitely, like at the press conferences, at the weigh-ins, and any time in the media, Jim would insist that I say something about someone's sexuality. And I would tell him every time, at the beginning, every time, you're just asking for somebody from my past to come up and say something. You're just asking for that to happen. But he would insist. And then it just got to the point where if I didn't do it, then I had to fight with him. So sometimes it was easier just to do what he said and not have to fight with him at 2 days before a fight. So I would be an asshole and just say negative things. And I'm paying the price for that. I think the LGBTQ community hasn't really forgiven me for that. And, that's okay. I mean, I did it. I own it. So I would like for people to understand the pressure that was on me, making me say those things, and that it was just easier. And this is what abusers do. This is what part of their control. Yeah. And that's what he did. I mean, it's just another form of abuse.
Pat.
And I think that person died. The person that died on that floor in Apopka, Florida, was that person that was controlled by someone else. Maybe. Now I may do the wrong thing, but I do the wrong thing because it was my decision to do the wrong thing. Yeah. Yeah.
You're not playing a character anymore.
No.
And
Christy Martin was definitely a persona.
And Pat, I mean, you experienced Jim Martin. You experienced, when Christy talks about, this part of me died, you can speak to this in a unique way. How do you see everything when you reflect upon the day you met Christy to now? What have you seen change, and how would you describe it coming from coming from the angle of a friend, somebody who genuinely was worried about her?
I think when I first met Christy, it was Christy the boxer. The life that she was leading was behind the doors, and we saw the celebrity end of it. As much of a celebrity she was still just a real person to other people, to the fans. Like, to me, she was, it was just a friendship. And it was the real Christy. So I think I kind of saw bits and pieces of both. And, it still hurts today to think that, I knew her that long but didn't know about it. She put up a good front, whether she wanted to or just to survive. I think that, like, one of the reasons I approached you, Dan, about doing a podcast with her is because I think she's looked over in the boxing world. I watch these boxing matches and like the announcers they have and stuff, and the female announcers they bring on, they're young, cocky, and arrogant, but they don't know the sport. Christy knows the sport inside and out, and she can commentate on any fight, and it'll be a true commentation about what is happening, not, the favorite boxer, my favorite boxer's doing great, blah, blah, blah. She tells the story of the action that's happening. And, if it's her fighter that isn't performing well, she's going to tell them, and they're going to hear it. I think because she works so hard when she trained and when she was in the ring, there wasn't a moment that wasn't exciting. Nowadays, some of the fighters are, they don't want to get hit. They don't want to engage. They just want to dance around and make it through the fight. When I talk about Christy and Arturo Gatti and Vinny Paz and Mickey Ward, they had that killer instinct in them, and they knew how to finish. Come back from the Carmen Basilio days. Those were the fights that were exciting. The fights today, a lot of times, the fighter doesn't even want to fight the guy that's in there because he's scared of him, and stuff. And she never dodged anything. She just, okay, put Layla Ali in front of me, and I'm going to go in and try my hardest. And didn't say no to fights. Lucia Riker, that fight should have happened. It never did. The boxing fans lost out on that, and Christy and Lucia lost out. That was the biggest payday for women's fights. And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen because Christy didn't want to do it, because she did everything she could to make that fight happen. So that's on Lucia. And, if she can live with that, then live with it. But you weren't as great as everybody thinks you were.
Well, and we go back to, kind of in closing here, we go back to that 50th win, and obviously footage of that is inside A Deal with the Devil on Netflix that you could go see. But Christy breaks her hand, continues to fight, continues to lead, continues to somehow, and you talk about, Pat, you talk about dancing around and just trying to get through it. Christy, you're still attacking. You're still going after it. With a broken hand, you're still going after it. And I don't know if I'll ever forget what you said to the doctor when the doctor had come to you after the fact and said, hey, you were, a few months ago, you came and spoke and said that, a doctor, that a doctor has to protect a boxer from themselves. Like you have to tell us when not to go. And you said, yeah, I wasn't talking about me, mother, and so, and I don't think I'll ever forget that, because that's the fight in you. And it's the fight that I see it today, and there's just a way that you went about what you did, and you came from fighting for free to fighting in Vegas. And that come up story, that coal miner's daughter that you talk about all the time. You literally went from rags to riches. You went from nothing to something. And I think within kind of seeing the spectrum, you learn about who you are and who you want to be. And I would love for you to kind of maybe reflect on that, if that's a fair point, that if you see, making nothing and getting no respect and then being at the top of the mountain, that somewhere in between all of that, did you feel like you really found who you are today?
Well, I had a great career. It was unbelievable. I mean, coal miner's daughter from a town of like 500 people in southern West Virginia to going to sit in front of Don King and so-called negotiate a contract signed by Don King, fighting on Showtime, fighting in Madison Square Garden, fighting in Las Vegas, traveling all over the world on someone else's dime most of the time. It was unbelievable. I mean, never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that could happen. So in that time, I found, I found who I didn't want to be. That's what I found the most. I didn't necessarily find who I wanted to be, but I knew who I didn't want to be. And I didn't want to be the arrogant athlete that so many people despise and that thinks they're better than everyone else. I wanted to be that. I wanted to be the people's champion. I wanted to be the one that the fans want to come see, want to talk to you, want to get a picture, want you to sign an autograph. I wanted to be that one. I wanted to be the one the fans are going to remember when they go back home in a couple of weeks. They're telling their friend, "Oh, wow, I got to meet Christy Martin while I was at this event." That's who I want to be. And that's what I thought was important to me. And yeah, that was definitely what I learned through that ride.
When you think about, I got to ask you this before we go. When you fought Lisa for the first time, she saw your persona. She saw who you were and what you presented yourself as. Bring me into the boxing ring. Everybody watching and listening, and bring Pat and I in here. What was it like to go up against Lisa? And did you feel from her that level of, did you get a sense beyond boxing that she was fighting for something else because of the persona that you had created?
Lisa was an athlete, is an athlete. She has that great determination, but everybody I fought had that. Everybody I fought wanted to knock me out. So she was in that respect no different than all the other opponents. She was just one of those that was very confident in herself. So she had a few words to talk. She talked a little trash, which was right up my alley. I talked back to her, but I knew once she started talking trash that I had done my job. I was in her head. She's big, she's strong. I have to get her angry. And once I made her angry, I had won the fight. And so that was that. That's a sore spot though. She's not here, so I can talk about it. But oh Lord, when she's around and people ask about the fight, I'm just like, oh my God, here we go again. It's a tough one.
That's why we ask you when she's at work.
Thank you. But I did tell her, this is what she forgets in the story. She walked by me and she said something about she was the champion in my weight class. And I told her, ain't nobody knows your name today, and ain't nobody gonna know your name Sunday morning. So that's just, that's how I was. I love talking trash and just making people so mad at me they made mistakes.
I like that. Pat, you had something? Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask? So you guys were the celebrity judges for our food truck battle.
Yeah.
After eating all that food, how do you feel about the actual job, and would you guys come back next year?
Christy.
Personally, I've already put it on my calendar for next year, and it was interesting. It was interesting because I don't know, Dan, I'll have to say, but the stuff was either really good or really bad. And there was not a whole lot of stuff really like that in between, like, oh yeah, it was okay. It was good or bad.
You either got an 18 out of 20 or you got a 4 out of 20. So so I mean, would I do it again? Yeah. I mean, I'm like Christy, it's on my calendar. I mean, you tell me to sit with Christy to my right and Gene across from me. I don't know what any of the other judges did, because I don't know if we ever looked down the table outside of Gene watching somebody eat one of the things that we threw in the trash, and they loved whatever that thing was, which I'll leave unnamed, but it looked like a bouquet of flowers. But, you know, the rest of the judging teams, I didn't hear any laughter. I didn't hear anything. We sat up there. We laughed the entire time. We talked about life. We joked around. We honestly just sat like a bunch of friends at a cafeteria table. And so would I go back again? Yeah. Why? Because of you, Pat, because of Christy, because of Gene. And I'm not going to say that I had the best team, but everybody knows what I had. So, I mean, food-wise, I would say that I agree with Christy wholeheartedly. The food that I like, I'm still talking about today. The food I didn't like, I'm still talking about today. So, but no, there was some incredible food. I just brought up, well, you'll see it in Two Mics No Filter, as it's become its own show. Our show about like dating, relationships, or really anything. Andrea is a big fan of Taylor Swift. And I told her, I said, you'll be so proud of me, because they gave us a lavender haze cupcake. And not only did I love it, but I said, oh, like Taylor Swift? And I was the only person to say that at the table, including like a whole group of girls to the left of me said none of that. So I was the only one that mentioned Taylor Swift. So I thought that she would be proud of that. Now, did you have anything else, Pat, about it? Or no?
The other thing I wanted to ask was, when you were sitting up on that patio up by the stage, when you looked out over and saw all the people, was it an incredible scene?
You know,
was it bigger than you thought it was?
I had a unique experience with that, and I guess I didn't share it with you and Christy and Gene. So when we went up on stage and I got to take all those pictures, and which you know, I will be sharing here, and kind of momentous thing, a little throwback Thursday. But when I got to take the pictures of Christy presenting the belt, they let me. Now, I've never been backstage at Chevy Court, and I've never been on stage at Chevy Court. Now, people that know me know I've sang my entire life since I was 3. So here I am. I sing. I do comedy. I'm a broadcaster. Never thought that I would ever be on that stage. As a kid, I walked by that stage and I thought to myself, only only the bigs go up on that stage. Champions go up on that stage. Like Boys to Men and all these, like so many amazing groups go up there, and individuals, and I don't know if they'll ever let me up on that stage. And then I go backstage and I think to myself, oh my God, I'm backstage. And then I go on stage and I think, oh my God, I'm on stage. And then when you all left, I don't know if you saw it, but I lingered, and I was standing on stage by myself, and I'm wearing my WakeUpCall logo. And I was told by God knows how many people behind my back and in front of my face that I'll never make it. I'm not anybody. I'm not special. And I looked out from that stage and I said, these are my people. This is my city. And I love these people. And I thought to myself, let me grab that mic and do something. But then I thought, I don't want to get Pat in trouble. So, but I, standing on that stage by myself and looking out at everybody, I said to myself, Daniel, Michael, Justin, Tortora, you have only just begun. And this city and every city that God will let me is going to get to know what it's like to be around me and what I do and how I do it. And I will not fail at bringing some positivity to this world. So what did I think when I looked at everybody? I thought, I'm proud of myself. And I'm thankful for the friends that I have that gave me the opportunity to stand up there. So thank you for that, Pat.
Awesome.
So Christy, you get the final word here. You brought Linds on today. You know, you've done so much. I didn't think I could be more moved, but I'm more moved after. You're the reason why I stayed up until 1 something in the morning. So, and that's why I texted you at 12:30 at night. And, I sent you the message that I sent you. But you get the last word today. So what would you like to share with everybody?
I just want to say, thank you to you, Dan. Thank you to Pat for giving me this great opportunity to do the podcast and to get out there to the people, talk about domestic violence, talk about sexuality, all the things that we need to talk about, the positives that we need to hear, and let everybody know that there's always a way out. There's always a way up, and you can. Doesn't matter what your situation is. You can get out. You can get above it. You can get through it. Just lean on us. We're here.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Christy Salters Martin, the People's Champion, International Boxing Hall of Famer, Pat Orr, boxing photographer, and the owner of our exclusive partner in this segment, PB&J's Lunchbox. If you know good food, then you've been to PB&J's. If you're looking for good food, then you go to PB&J's. And if you want to, push Pat to make shrimp tacos, then you also go to PB&J's on 6630 Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Pat, as always, thank you for believing in me and trusting in me, 3 years ago in the start of our partnership and even before that. And Christy, thank you for letting me do this and trusting me to tell your story. So I appreciate you both. I send you both my love. And I would be wrong if I didn't say, to end this segment, champ, you the man. That's what I'm going to say.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that coming to you here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And that is Christy's Corner, our bi-monthly segment every other Tuesday at 9 a.m. featuring the International Boxing Hall of Famer, now actress, and so many other things. Person who, an inspirational speaker, motivational speaker, somebody who stands against domestic violence and domestic abuse, and so many things that Christy's done, as well as a promoter. We appreciate Christy Salters Martin and the great Pat Orr for everything she does at PB&J's Lunchbox and her boxing photography work and her ability of bringing people together in such a special way, because Pat helped me to meet Christy, and she's been the bridge to that. So much love to Pat Orr, much love to Christy Salters Martin, much love to Linds Edwards. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll see you right after this. Avicolli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicolli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student-athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicolli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And then them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma&Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma&Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma&Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? and a smile hits both their ears, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, here with you where sports meets life every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm joined by Dave Pasiak. As you know, he is my resident analyst when it comes to the basketball world, and when it comes to the NBA, that is the first phone call that I make. We've done it for many, many years, and Dave's been on the show, I think, now for 12 years, so we definitely appreciate, because I think it was back in 2011 that he came on for the first time. So appreciate having Dave Pasiak here with us, NVU Linden Hornets men's basketball head coach, as well as someone who has ties to Central and Upstate New York, and the work that he has done here in the past and just everything he's done in the basketball world. And when it comes to analyzing the NBA, why do I have Dave on? Because number one, he's a good person, and that's the most important thing to me. Number two, he's always good at breaking stuff down to people that have never seen an NBA game, to the people that watch it all the time. And number three, I don't tell him the talking points, and I could ask him about any one of the 30 NBA franchises, and he could tell me something. So I appreciate his expertise. I appreciate the human being he is more than that. And even though he likes LeBron James a little bit more than I do, I forgive him for that. Dave, how are you this morning?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm sure all the LeBron haters are happy today.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing for me now, and I've gone on record of saying this. I respect LeBron's ability to. I mean, listen, this guy changes a game. You and I were talking about it off the air. He single-handedly kept him in the game last night. We know what he did for Cleveland the first time he was in Cleveland, even though they got swept by the Spurs. Who would the Cleveland Cavaliers have been without him? I mean, would they have even made the playoffs? So his value to a franchise, tremendous. His love for himself in an unhealthy ego way is where he loses me. His flopping where he flies, halfway down the court when somebody taps them with a fingernail, that loses me. So there's parts of LeBron's game I don't like. Do I think that he's a player that can change a game? Absolutely. Do I think he's someone that's tough to guard? Absolutely. Do I think that, he's the only, with Carmelo Anthony retiring, he's the only player left from the 2003 NBA draft. And is the man still relevant? He's beyond relevant. I mean, he's a guy who changes games. He's a guy who creates opportunities for teams that wouldn't have him. So I think you got to respect that. I don't like the personality. I don't like the ego. I don't like the drama. And I don't like the flopping. So those are things. And hearing him talk about himself over and over and over again is exhausting to me. So those are the things I don't enjoy. However, we know that last night, without LeBron James, the Nuggets win by 20, or whatever it could be at that point. So I would love to get your thoughts on LeBron. And for the people that love him and the people that aren't fond of him, how do you look at him this morning, being the only player left from the 2003 NBA draft, and seeing him try to carry his team on his back at 38 years old and some days, scoring the most points, I think, was it the most points of anybody at that age in the playoffs? What are your thoughts?
I mean, the guy has done for 20 years something that nobody in basketball has stayed at the level he's been at for 20 years. I mean, he's been, at or close to the top of the game, for 20 years. He's got, and the thing on top of that is, he had the run of going to the finals every year. He's played USA basketball multiple times. So, I mean, the guy has it's not just 20 regular seasons of NBA play. It's 20 seasons. I mean, this year he's in the conference finals. So, I mean, it's 20 seasons of many deep postseason runs, multiple championships, trips to the finals, Olympics, basketball, World Cup. I mean, for the guy to play at the level he's played at, when Jordan was at LeBron's age, he was coming off the bench for the Wizards. So, I think it's remarkable that he's been able to, to maintain that level. But I think it's remarkable that undefeated. Is he still an elite player in the NBA? Absolutely. Is he the best player on the planet like he was for probably a decade plus? No. I mean, you can see that. I mean, by the end of the game last night, he was gassed. But the guy played 48 minutes. Yeah. People are always complaining about load management and all that kind of thing. Yeah, he's got the season on the line, and I mean, like Boston could could learn a lesson. Their guys, Tatum and Brown and their star players could learn a lesson from watching LeBron and watching the Lakers last night because, Denver was the better team in that series. But LA fought and was there in every game. All 4 games, the Lakers put themselves in a position to win against a team that's been the best team in the West all year. You kind of contrast that to the way Boston laid down like dogs in Game 3. I think nothing but respect for LeBron and for the Lakers for digging out of the hole they were in early in the season and getting to the conference finals and competing for 4 games.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, to get to where they got to, and I said at the beginning of this all, if you let the Lakers in, that's on you. That's your fault. If you let them in, then you're going to have to deal with them. And deal with them a lot of teams had to, and every team but Denver losing to them on the way. Why is Denver so good? I mean, I know people talk about Jokic and best point guard in the country, best point guard in the world, maybe the best player in the world right now, the Joker. We hear so many things about him. But as a team, why are the Denver Nuggets so good? What do you see when you analyze them, when you watch them, when you break them down, outside of the typical, statement by people saying you can't stop the Joker? What is it about Denver in general that you think is so special this year?
Well, I mean, it starts with Jokic, for no question about it. And the guy is playing as well as any player in the world. And, you talk about one of the things that really defines a great player, and I think this is something that LeBron has done for much of his career, and Jokic certainly does, is he makes the guys around him better. By making great basketball plays, being unselfish, commanding attention for himself. So, I mean, it starts with him, obviously. The other thing, if you remember, we talked about at the beginning of this series about how the key guy for Denver was going to be Murray. And Murray has really played well, in these playoffs and in this last round in particular. So, when Murray's on the top of his game and playing at an elite or near elite level, that gives Denver like 1 and 1A, and the guys around them all kind of fit and know their role, understand that the team, everything runs through Jokic, understand that Murray can be their go-to guy, and everybody around them fits. And I also think that Michael Malone I think he's a guy who has never gotten the credit he deserves as an NBA head coach. I think he's one of the really high-level coaches in the NBA. I thought that when he was in Sacramento. He's like, if you look back when he coached the Kings, Boogie Cousins was a better player under Malone than probably at any point in his career. And new ownership didn't like that they didn't play that they played at kind of a slow pace and just wanted to change that up. And I was glad that he got another opportunity with Denver. And I think he's a guy he's a high-level elite coach. And, that's something that hasn't been, it wasn't talked about in this series as much as it was in the series in the East, is you got a veteran coach in Malone versus a first-year head coach in Darvin Ham. And, I think Darvin Ham did a great job keeping the Lakers together and getting them to that point and everything. and when you got LeBron on your team, you basically got a coach on the floor too. And so I think those guys did a really great job of retooling that team on the fly this year. When you get in the playoffs and, now you're in the end of game and the adjustments from game to game and everything, I think like coaching experience and guys who have been there and been successful at a high level, I think that probably has more significance than it oftentimes gets credit for. From the media and the fans at large. Now, I mean, the Eastern Series, everybody's all over Missoula and giving Spoelstra his due. But in the West, I think that wasn't talked about maybe enough. Is Malone having a substantial coaching experience advantage over Darvin Ham.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and you talk about Michael Malone, the head coach of the Denver Nuggets. Allegedly he's regarded as one of the least liked NBA coaches, and I guess by some. So it says, we're looking at this at one of the leagues with only 12.7% of online conversations about him positive. Now, if you hold any weight to this stuff, because I think people are negative online more often than not sometimes. But you look at this positive online sentiment score. Indiana Pacers, Phoenix Suns, we look at Miami Heat, Utah Jazz. These are the ones that are high in the numbers here. The Philadelphia 76ers are at the bottom of that. So that's, so what are your thoughts on that, Dave? I mean, not that I put much weight at all into any of this because internet trolls are ridiculous. They're subpar human beings, in my opinion. So the fact that the Sixers are second to last in positive sentiments online, does that surprise you?
Well, I think there's a lot of recency effect there.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
absolutely.
Philly, the way the series with Boston ended, I think that Philly crapped away a great opportunity to get to the finals, and I think Harden, Embiid, Doc Rivers, I think those guys are bearing the brunt of that. Then there's a lot of recency. And I think if you see Boston get swept out tonight, people are going to forget about Philly crapping away that series. And the online, the online world is going to be all over Boston and all over Missoula in particular. The guy went from, getting credit for out-coaching Doc Rivers and saving his job last round. And now there's questions about whether he'll be back, even though they extended him and took the interim tag off during the season. So, I don't think the online sentiment, to me, that doesn't. I mean, sports fans it's always about the recency effect.
Yeah, I agree.
Whatever's, it's no different than cable news. Whatever's in the 24-hour news cycle, that's what everybody's fixated on until the next big thing comes along.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so I think it's ridiculous. I didn't even look where Toronto is, my team, because I genuinely don't care when it comes to that online stuff, because some people are negative for the sake of being negative. And I mean, the funny thing is, people that are negative online, like some of them don't even watch the NBA. And so it's like, how are you even commenting? But we look at the track record of Michael Malone, the head coach of the Denver Nuggets, because I want to take some time with this now. He was born in Queens, New York. He's 51 years old. He's en route to being 52. So he was born on September 15th, 1971. And he was an assistant coach and a scout for the Knicks. Then he was an assistant coach for the Cavs. And then the New Orleans Hornets, he was an assistant coach. And the Golden State Warriors after that. Then he went to Sacramento, and he coached a bit of games there. Sacramento 28-54 and then 11-13 while he was at Sacramento. Then he's been at Denver since 2015-16. He's gone 33-49, 40-42, 46-36, 54-28, 46-27, 47-25, 48-34, and 53-29. So when you look at this, you say, okay, he took over the Denver Nuggets. They had a losing record. Then they had almost a 500 record. And since then, since those first couple seasons, he's had a winning record with the Denver Nuggets in the last 6 years straight. So What can you say about not this season, but the overall job that Michael Malone has done with the Denver Nuggets?
Well, I think he's done a great job. I mean, he's gotten them from irrelevant to one of the teams that's in the mix year in and year out in the West. And, every NBA market is not the same. And Denver is not, you don't hear about them in the mix for the elite level free agents. And, it's a team and an organization that's, kind of had to build by being a little bit smarter, a little bit, a little bit better with player development and at finding the right pieces than the next guy. And of course, Jokic has turned into an elite level MVP caliber player. So I think Malone should get some credit for his development. So, I think, and I have always felt that he's one of the top coaches in the NBA. I've always liked him, but like I said, back to the Sacramento days, I thought he had them headed in the right direction and competing, and then new ownership, came down to basically didn't like his style of play. So, I think the guy has been one of the underappreciated coaches in the league for quite a while.
Yeah, and to see him now, what I like about it is that, he's got his own personality. You being a coach, Dave, what can you say about the personality of Michael Malone when he's talking with the media? What are your thoughts on how he goes about doing that? Because he definitely has his own brand.
Yeah, I think he's a little direct.
Yeah.
I don't think he's filtered or worried about massaging the message. I think he speaks what's on his mind, and he's pretty direct. And I think some people appreciate that and some don't. I think there are other coaches in the NBA and across professional sports that are, big time college sports for that matter, that are, they're working the media a lot. I think Malone, my impression of him with the media post-game and pre-game and those types of things, I think pretty much he calls it as he sees it, and what you see is what you get. And, I appreciate that, in a coach.
Yeah, he definitely says what he says and feels what he says. So from what I take from him, he very much, I don't know. I'll watch his press conference because a lot of these, press conferences, I don't know, the NBA, it's different than it used to be. And so, but Michael Malone, I find myself that when he's talking, I'm like, okay, what does he have to say? So, we look at the other side of it, and we look at the Lakers head coach right now. And of course, when a team loses in today's America, people lose their minds. Now, Darvin Ham is a guy whose basketball cards I used to collect. Now, he's the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he should be the coach of the future? We've seen a bunch of coaches that you and I agree are more than qualified and shouldn't have been fired. And I see you, Monty Williams, out in Phoenix, and I see you, Budenholzer, out in Milwaukee. But is Darvin Ham the answer? Do you like him as the coach? Living in a society where, the Lakers just lost, so somebody on some social media, speaking of sentiments, is probably asking for his head. How do you see the work that Darvin Ham has done?
I did a great job this year. I thought that was a team that got off to a really rocky start. It's very hard to retool a team on the fly the way the Lakers did. And, making moves during the season. Look at Phoenix. Phoenix made the big move with Durant and really never, I don't think, ever reached their peak. I think that, and part of that was due to injury, granted. But, the Lakers dealt with injury, too, between LeBron and AD. And, I think the way that the front office and Darvin Ham were able to remake that team on the fly during the season to the point where, they're playing in the conference finals, I think very, very good accomplishment for them. And, I think he's a guy he as a first-year coach to do that, I think, he's been in the league, was in the league as a player and a long-time assistant. So it's not like, He hadn't been around championship level play, but I thought, first go around as a head coach, thought he did a great job. Now in LA, and especially with LeBron in the mix, you got a really short rope there. So I think he's a guy. I mean, you look at Vogel. Vogel won a championship there, proven coach, and 2 years later he's out. So I think that there's high expectations in LA, and there's going to be high expectations as long as you got LeBron and Anthony Davis. So, Darvin Ham's only one bad season away from being on a very, very hot seat. But I thought, first year out of the gate, I thought very encouraging as far as him and his future as a Lakers coach.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for him. I hopefully, we'll see. Now, LeBron James coming into this here with Dave Pasiak, our longtime basketball coach and analyst, been on this show for many, many years, 12 years here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So definitely appreciate it. Dave, you've been on this show longer than some coaches have been employed. How about that? So, we look at the what have you done for me lately, and this is a long tenure to have an opportunity to do this. When you look at everything that you and I have gotten to talk about, we've spoken about LeBron over the years, obviously, right? And yesterday he said he's going to take some time and figure out what his next step's going to be. And and of course the story is not Denver, which it should be because Denver's been phenomenal. But the story was LeBron James. Now, I want to spend more time on Denver. And so let's do the LeBron James thing now because I want to give Denver their due credit here. I asked you about, what you think about the team overall, but that team and the comeback and the way that they did what they did, and Jamal Murray, coming into the NBA and the high hopes for him, and, what Jokic has done. And there's so many great things about Denver. And the last time Denver was really knocking at the door was with Carmelo Anthony, who just retired. So there's a lot to say when it comes to Denver. I do want to tackle this LeBron thing now, and that is, him talking about, I don't know what my future's going to be, yada, yada, yada. Now, the emphasis on playing with his son. So that's a unique situation. Does he lobby the Lakers to take him? Does he call up the team, wherever he thinks his son's projected to go and say, hey, if you take my son, you're going to take me too? What are your thoughts on LeBron's future and this whole playing with his son type of thing?
Yeah, I think first, getting to the comments after the game last night, I don't put a lot of stock in that. You hear it all the time, with any player that's got any longevity, is the press is asking them, are you coming back? You thinking about retiring, blah, blah, blah. You see it in college basketball when they're asking guys right after they got beaten in the NCAA tournament if they're coming back or going in the draft and whatnot. So, I think people are talking from emotion, and the season just came to an end, coming off a great effort. So I don't put a lot of stock one way or another in what LeBron or any guy says right after, immediately after your season ends. I'm sure he's going to take a couple weeks, rest, recover, and then kind of get back in the routine as far as, I would be surprised if LeBron stepped away after this season. But he does, he's got 20 years and he's still physically at a high level. But, the one thing that you can't quantify is, at some point you get mentally fatigued too. And, is he at that point? So it happened with Jordan a couple different times, right? Stepped away to play baseball, stepped away again, and then couldn't stay away and came back with the Wizards. So, is it possible that LeBron would step away? I guess. But, I think he'll play out his contract, and I think he's got it timed. If Bronny ends up being at a point where, he's ready to come out and declare for the draft after 1 year at USC. Yeah. LeBron, I think, has time. He'll be a free agent at that point. I think he's certainly in a position as a player and with his stature in the game and everything. Whoever drafts Bronny, LeBron will be in a position where he could, if he wants to, he can sign with him for a minimum deal if he wants to. If he just wants to play with Bronny for a year, I'm sure any team in the league would sign on for that. I think what LeBron does after next season. Now, maybe he steps away now, takes a year off, and then becomes a free agent and tries to maneuver so that he can join his son. I think he's got the the stature and the leverage to be able to do that, and you can't fault him for that. I think people in all walks of sports, business, whatever, if they get to a certain point, they kind of develop enough collateral and enough influence that they can control the situation. People do that. So I think that's what he's going to look to do, and a lot of it is going to depend on Bronny's development at USC and where he falls in the eyes of the NBA scouts and experts and front office people. Where he falls, is he a legitimate first-round draft pick at the end of his freshman season at USC? If he is, especially if he looks like he might be a lottery level pick, I think the chances are great that LeBron plays out the contract with the Lakers and tries to sign in free agency with whoever drafts Bronny. Now, there's also the possibility that LeBron could encourage, I guess would be the way I put it, influence the Lakers to make a move to draft him.
Yeah.
To draft Bronny. So I think that's, there's too many moving parts right now to say with any certainty how that's going to play out. But, I think, over the next season at USC and everything, that'll come more into focus as we see whether, where Bronny would fall on the NCAA or the NBA landscape.
Speaking here, Dave Pasiak, longtime basketball coach and analyst, and currently with the Hornets Division III men's basketball team out in the great state of Vermont with NVU and Linden. Dave, can this Lakers team win? Can they get farther with what they have? What needs to happen? I mean, how do you? We've seen the Anthony Davis LeBron project. We've seen other moving parts. We've seen the Russell Westbrooks come in and out that didn't work out. Can this Lakers team be better than what they are this year with what they have? Or do we need to see a rehauling, a retool? I mean, where do the Lakers have to go from here if LeBron, in fact, decides to stay?
Yeah, I mean, I think, ideally, if they added one more piece, like a third scorer that would complement LeBron and Anthony Davis, I think would help them. But I also think Reeves came a long way. Hashimura, D'Angelo Russell had been playing well and then pulled a disappearing act. Like, you're kind of looking for one key as to why Denver dominated the series. I think that's probably a good place to start. He really was a non-factor the whole series. But, I think if the Lakers could make a move to get one more, like a legitimate number 3 guy, high-level number 3 guy, that would narrow the gap between them and Denver. But I think just keeping that core together that they kind of retooled and built with the second half of the season. I mean, after LeBron and AD, there's a lot of young talent with some promise there that I think is going to continue to get better, especially another year with LeBron. I think he's a guy that is going to make the guys around him better. And I thought, and he alluded to this in one of the post-game interviews, that he and Anthony Davis kind of fought the game and try to control the game to give the young guys the ability to just play free and easy, which I thought they did. And those guys, Reeves is the one that sticks out in particular, but All of their complementary guys, I thought, really elevated their game second half of the season. So I think it's a team that's going to continue to get better. It'll get better faster if they can make a move to get a legitimate number 3 guy.
Yeah, and then to look at the Denver Nuggets side, I mean, this team that has taken care of home court, you've talked about it numerous times, how it's different. The air is different in Denver, Colorado. And so when we look at how Denver has handled home, how they've handled this series, it's the first time that they ever swept in the Western Conference Finals because it's the first time they've ever made the NBA Finals. So this is, a lot of first 4-0 in the Western Conference Finals for Denver. First appearance in the NBA Finals. There's only 4 franchises left that haven't made an appearance. So this Denver Nuggets team, I got your thoughts on beyond, Jokic, what you see from this team in general, what you take it away. Looking at their trail, their journey throughout this entire season, not just the postseason, did Denver catch your eye early? Did you start seeing this coming together earlier on? Or is it something that you thought, brought itself into existence toward the tail end of the season? I mean, they were the number 1 seed coming in for the West in the playoffs, but when did you really start to think this Denver Nuggets team has a shot of having a really special season?
Well, I thought fairly early on this season, because they kind of seized control of the West, fairly early on, and open up some breathing space in the race in the West. So I thought that they were a team that had a chance to compete for the conference title, play in the NBA Finals, and potentially win the NBA Finals. And as the season progressed, that thought kind of solidified. I mean, they're a team that's been close for a little while. Murray's had some injury issues that kind of derailed them to an extent. But, they're a team that has been right there with the top teams in the West and in the NBA for a few seasons now. So I think as sports fans, especially in the Northeast, we think of them as a team that's come out of nowhere, but I don't think that's really true. I just think they're a team that they don't get a ton of media exposure, national TV appearances and all this kind of stuff. So maybe we don't see them with the frequency that we do the Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors, the other Western Conference teams that that tend to be on ABC and on TNT national television more frequently. But I think it's a team. I'm not surprised at all that they're where they are, because I think they're a team that's been knocking on the doorstep for a while. Not that dissimilar from your Raptors a few years back, to where they were a team that was kind of right there in the mix, just trying to break through and finally did it. So, I think there's a little bit of similarity there between Denver and the Toronto team of a few years back that, kept getting closer, and finally broke through.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, seeing that that the Nuggets have finally broken through to this. I mean, it's like you said, you kind of saw it early on when they took a hold of the West. No matter what team comes out of the East, are the Denver Nuggets the best team, in your opinion, right now?
Well, like going into the playoffs, we had the conversation. I thought there were 5 teams that had a chance to win it, which was Denver and Phoenix in the West, and then Boston, Philly, Milwaukee in the East. I kind of threw the Lakers into that mix when I saw how they're playing the first round or two. Miami wasn't going into the playoffs a team I necessarily thought I thought they could make life interesting for some teams, but I really wasn't expecting them to be a finals team. I think that, prior to the conference finals, I would have said Boston and Denver were the 2 favorites, and Boston would have home court against Denver. So you'd think that may give them a little bit of an edge there. And Boston being the team that got to the finals. Like, you look back through the NBA, it's like the struggle is one of the beautiful things about the NBA, because a lot of the times you'll see like that team that, you know, they get in the playoffs and then they advance a couple rounds, and then I mean, you saw this with the Jordan Bulls and the Pistons, and you know, all the great teams of, you know, to where they had to go through the struggle to, you know, to get to the next round and to advance, and then they finally break through and get to the finals and win the championship. So I mean, Boston, a team that, you know, that had been to the finals, and you know, so you would have thought going into the conference finals that Boston might have a little edge over Denver. The way the two teams have played, and you know, the way the conference finals have played out, I think Denver's the favorite over either Boston. You know, if Boston should come back, which I'm not. I mean, it's never happened in the history of the NBA, come back from 0-3. And I think Denver's the favorite over Miami too. But I think if it is Denver and Miami, I think you're getting the two teams that have played the best in the playoffs, and you're going to see the two players who have been the two best players in the playoffs, in Jokic and Butler. So, you know, that's kind of certainly where it's headed. And an interesting fact, if Miami closes it out tonight, it'll be the first time that both conference finals have been 4-0 sweeps in the history of the league, which we certainly weren't thinking that was the way it was going to go a week ago. But I think the unfortunate thing is if Miami closes it out, we're looking at like 8 days before the finals start, and I think for the players getting that rest, I think you know, game one could be a little bit disjointed, but I think it'll lend itself to a really good finals, because guys with nagging injuries will, you know, have some rest time, some downtime, and we should get two fresh teams in the finals if Miami closes it out tonight or even in the next game. But I think from the standpoint of attention of the sporting fan, the sports universe, and the public at large, I really feel bad for the two teams in the finals in the league and everything, because I think you lose some momentum with that week-plus gap. And on top of that, you got two teams in Denver and Miami that don't tend to be ratings grabbers or high attention, high media market teams. I think like the TV networks would have loved to have Lakers Celtics, I'm sure. You know, if there's a week-plus gap and it's Denver and Miami in the finals, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I think TV ratings are really going to take a hit. But I think the quality of the series will be really good.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, they said, what did they say back in the day, that the San Antonio Spurs were the most boring team to watch. And, you know, who cares about that? And they were making NBA Finals hand over fist, season to season. And they said, you know, this is terrible for ratings because they're such a boring team. And I said, if I'm a team that's playing in the NBA Finals pretty much every single year, I'll be boring. That's fine. I'll do that. So, you know, I mean, they said the same thing about Toronto. You know, who wants to see the Toronto Raptors play in the NBA Finals? But people also don't take into account that the media does not always tell you the truth. And the support in Toronto for the Toronto Raptors and the support around the world for the Toronto Raptors is high. Being in the top 15 in attendance, seeing what they've done with Jurassic Park with people that stand outside of the arena on top of who's in the arena. I've been in the arena when there's 19,000 plus in the arena for a regular season game. And actually, it was a Carmelo Anthony game when he was playing for the Knicks. So, you know, to me, we don't always get told the truth. And this whole ratings thing, like you said, I mean, you don't want to hear it. At the end of the day, the best team should be making it. If it's rigged, then yeah, it would be Celtics-Lakers in this season. But I want to see good basketball. I want to see the best teams make it. Apparently, I misspoke here, and I want to correct myself. I said that there were 4 teams that have never made the NBA Finals, and depending on how you look at the Charlotte Hornets, New Orleans Pelicans, because of their history that kind of intertwines them, there's actually 5 teams that have never made it. So the way that it breaks down, the Clippers, believe it or not, who are the Buffalo Braves back in the day, they've never made an NBA Finals appearance in 53 seasons. The Timberwolves have never made it. The Hornets have never made it. The Pelicans have never made it. And the Memphis Grizzlies. So those are the teams that still remain beyond the Nuggets. Dave, any surprises here? I would say, in my opinion, it would be the Clippers, because I feel like if you ask most people, like the average fan, they would think the Clippers had made one. Any surprises when I say Clippers, Timberwolves, Hornets, Grizzlies, Pelicans, no NBA Finals?
Well, I mean, you look at Hornets, Grizzlies, Pelicans. Those are relatively new franchises, so
right.
Just their longevity hasn't been as great. The Clippers would be the one. I mean, I remember the days when I was a kid, the Buffalo Braves days with Bob Mack. It was a sad day when they left Buffalo. Would have been nice to have an NBA team still in Buffalo, but
yeah.
So just from length of the franchise, I would say the Clippers would be the biggest surprise there. Denver had. Denver came from the ABA, and the mergers. In ancient history now. So Denver's been an established NBA team for a long time, and they were a team that in the ABA was a championship caliber team with David Thompson and whatnot back in the day. Given how good the Nuggets have been from time to time, it's a little surprising that they've never made a finals. But the Clippers, to me, are the biggest. Without overthinking it, they're the biggest surprise on that list.
Yeah, I think, again, I think looking at this list, that was the one that shocked me. Grizzlies came out when the Raptors came out, so they haven't even spent 30 years in the NBA back in 95, 96 when they were the Vancouver Grizzlies to start. The Charlotte Hornets kind of surprised me because I grew up watching Alonzo Mourning and Muggsy Bogues and Kendall Gill and that whole team, and Larry Johnson. So in my mind, I was like, oh, that Nuggets team or that Hornets team had to have made it. And so that shocked me a little bit because in my head, like, they were one of the best teams. So, but you're also going through the Chicago Bulls, so it does make sense when you really break it down. Dave, we're going to go into the ingredients to success as we always do on Tuesdays to round out the show. And I would love to hear, proudly brought to you by Avicolli's on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York. 7839 Oswego Road is the physical address, right down the road from Liverpool High School. You can walk there from the high school. Go to Avicolli's Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. As always, drink responsibly. Their pizza is fantastic. Their veal is second to none, in my opinion. And really, anything I've had there has been wonderful. You could go to the fine dining side, or you could go to the casual pizza side. And, of course, they have their bar. And now with the weather permitting, they have outdoor dining, which is always really beautiful. At Avicolli's, you could call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. The ingredients to success are segment with Avicolli's exclusively. And so we'd love to get your thoughts, Dave, on the ingredients to success, first for the Celtics and then for the Heat in tonight's do-or-die game for Boston.
Well, I think for the Celtics, it comes down to that. We talked off the air. Barkley had a great line the other night. He said they had the mental toughness of a flea. I think for the Celtics, it's just I got a couple of friends of mine that are Celtic fans. They always talk Celtic pride. I think they need to display some of that and just play with some energy and some urgency. Like they want to extend the series, extend the playoffs, extend the season. I thought Boston lost the game the other night. They played like a bunch of dogs and really didn't play with any urgency, which was shocking to me. So I think just from a emotional standpoint, energy standpoint, that's what I think Boston needs to bring to the table. From a tactical standpoint, they've got to do a great job on Jimmy Butler. They can't let Butler dictate the game and dominate the game. The supporting cast for the Heat was really good the other night. Can they be counted on to do that game in and game out? I don't know. So I think Boston's been really reluctant to double Butler, take away Butler. They've kind of let him get going before they made any adjustments. I think they need to clamp on him right from the jump to have a chance tonight. On the Miami side of things, they got to keep the foot on the gas. there's a sense where you go up 3-0, no team has ever come back from 3-0. So, it's human nature. Heat fans and, people around Miami think the series is over. People around the NBA think the series is over. I think the players, the team, the staff, they need to not feed into that and understand that the series is not over. They still got to get one more. And, if they give this one away to Boston tonight, now Celtics go home, get the next one. Now we're at 3-2 heading back to Miami, and it's a whole different series. All the pressure now becomes on the Heat for not closing it out. So I think Miami has to keep the foot on the accelerator, has to keep the pressure on Boston, not allow Tatum or Brown to really get going. Tatum came off like a historically great game in Game 7 against the Sixers, and has really been bad in this series. And the same can be said for Brown. So I think Miami needs to continue to lock down on those guys and not allow either one of them to get going and put the Celtics on their back tonight.
Dave, do you think that Jason Tatum can be an every night player? There's been that criticism that if he has a great game, then we're going to see him disappear. Do you think that he can be the consistency that they need?
I think so. It's really interesting because at times he looks like he's a top 5 player in the NBA and an elite level player. I mean, the Game 7 performance against Philadelphia was out of this world. But then you turn around and, like you say, you ask yourself, where is this on a game in, game out basis? Yeah. And is the reason that you're not seeing that night in and night out? Is it Jason Tatum? Is it the mix in Boston? Is it the leadership in Boston? Is it a combination of all of those things? It's a really interesting thing because, like, you watch him at his best and you're like, this guy should be one of the top players in the league. And at times he is, but then there's other nights where he's just a guy. And it's really kind of perplexing when you think about it.
Yeah, and because it is. I mean, you see what he could do to take over, and Jaylen Brown, I mean, you bring him up, and what we've seen him do before, it's strange how this Celtic team, I mean, Barkley said it, they being a flea out there and whatnot. I do have to ask you this before you go, Dave. With the ingredients to success, is it an ingredient to success to have Charles Barkley talking basketball? Because I have found myself in the last couple weeks going back and watching just Barkley highlights of things that he has said. I find myself wanting to watch him more than the game. I want to see his post game. I want to see his half, because he's one of the last real people in the media. And what I mean by that is he says how he feels. He talks about things that matter to him. He doesn't have a filter. So what do you think Charles Barkley does for the game as a broadcaster?
Well, I think not just Barkley, but that whole show. I think the TNT studio show, the Inside the NBA, I mean, to me, it's the greatest studio show in the history of televised sports, and it's not even close. Yeah. And I think they've got the perfect mix of guys. So when Barkley says what's on his mind. I think he's thoughtful. Like, I think a lot of people dismiss Barkley, but I think really, I mean, there's a little shtick in there for sure. He's playing to his persona. Same with Shaq a little bit, but I think Shaq's the same way. I think he's a little more understated than Barkley. But, I think he calls it as he sees it, and that whole show they do. And then, Kenny Smith tends to be a little bit more analytical, and then Ernie Johnson is the great, I mean, he's like the orchestra conductor, Yeah. I think that show, the TNT studio show, it's a shame that they never get the NBA Finals, that you never get those guys on the finals, because I think they're great for the fan and great for the NBA. And like you say, there's some nights, like the other night, the game was awful between the Heat and the Celtics. Like I'm watching it till the end, and I want to see the post game and see what kind of reaction Barkley and Shaq and Kenny are going to have to that performance by Boston, you know? So I think there's no question. I think they draw, they garner attention for the league and draw viewers to the, to the party and everything. I think they're great for the league. And I know the TV contract's coming up not that far down the line, and it would be a shame if that show ever goes away. Like I said, they have it's the perfect mix of guys, and it's been great for the league and great for the for the sports fan.
Yeah, Ernie Johnson Jr., Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, Shaquille O'Neal, inside the NBA. I mean, that's what I watch for, and watching it like you were talking about this last game that they did. I mean, Shaq and Charles were threatening to punch each other again. So I mean, but it's just fun. It's just fun. It's exciting. I think for the people that have lost their touch with the NBA and don't care about the NBA and don't like today's NBA, I would say to them, an ingredients to success for your week is to watch Inside the NBA and let that be kind of like your reintroduction. Because even if you don't like the NBA, you like that. I mean, there's just a different way that they go about it, and it's real and it's genuine and it's not scripted, and you just feel like it's guys talking and they're saying what they think in the moment, sometimes acting like the camera's not on. And it's hard to find stuff like that. So I like it. Shaq, how you doing? I just that low voice, the big dumb. I call it the big dumb baby voice, but I like Shaq. It's just he always sounds like he's about to go to sleep. But I like that. I like Charles. I don't know if the people in San Antonio or Phoenix like Charles, but it's he's got a lot of things to say about those places and San Antonio for sure. But and you said that Ernie Johnson Jr. is the essentially the conductor of the orchestra. And let's be real, sometimes that orchestra is playing off key. There's tubas that are going when the clarinets are supposed to be going. Dave, I mean, God bless Ernie Johnson, and I hope that his heart is good and blood sugar level and all that good stuff, because if he's the conductor, 99.9% of the time it doesn't sound like an orchestra.
No, but it sounds like the corner street band sometimes.
Yeah, it's good, like that New Orleans band.
But I think that's the appeal of the show, is that it is real, and there's not a lot of filter there. There's a little shtick, like we said. There's a little bit of shtick, especially with Charles and Shaq. But I think all four of those guys, they do a great job of analyzing the NBA, and I think they also step out of their lane a little bit when it comes to off-the-court things, issues in society, and I think they talk real in those settings too, whether you agree with them or not. And I think that's one of the really appealing things about the show. I think that's the sad thing. If the Heat win tonight, they're all going fishing after the game tonight, and that's the last we'll see of the Inside the NBA crew until next year. So
yeah, that's boring. See, I don't like that. I think as long as NBA is being played, we need to see Ernie, Kenny, Charles, and Shaq, in my opinion. So those are the ingredients to success. Watch them tonight. Hopefully the Celtics will win, so we have more from Inside the NBA. And for my grandfather and my aunt, who I know. My grandpa's watching in heaven. My Aunt Donna's watching here on earth, and I know that they want to see a win. So we'll see what happens tonight. Dave gave you the ingredients to success. Dave Pasiak always doing a tremendous job with the NBA and everything in general. And Dave, I can't thank you enough, and appreciate you so very much. And the one thing you won't get from our show, and maybe I need to find the city that Dave likes the least, but you won't hear Dave talk about San Antonio women like Charles Barkley does. However, Dave, we got to find a city you don't like. I can tell you mine. It's in New Jersey. So maybe we can find a city to have some fun with. Do you have a city or a state that you don't like to frequent?
Well, as a basketball coach, I hate all the road trips to Maine. But that's more of a basketball thing. because I have a new appreciation for New York officiating after having gone to Maine for the last 6 years. But it's and we always go up there during the winter and everything. I'm sure it's nice in the different times of the year. But I don't know. I mean, I don't have a really. I mean, I'm a little down on like New York City, Chicago, some of those places because of kind of what's been allowed to happen in the streets, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
You know, and people leaving the city, and so as far as the cities and that, some of the major cities just disappoint me in the way things have gone, and the crime, and lack of respect for one another that people have developed, like in some of the inner cities and whatnot. But that's a political topic for us to talk about another day.
Yeah, no, I can agree with you. Mine would also be Newark, New Jersey, and people know why. So I got to put New Jersey in there, but not every part of New Jersey, but Newark, New Jersey. I hope you all the best, and I would appreciate if my experience with you next time is better than every other time. So, and I've only had 2 experiences with Newark. In Newark, they were both not good. One of them was terrible, and it reminded me why I don't go to New Jersey. So I will say that I love the state of Florida. That's my second home. So shout out to Florida. And yeah, New York City, I believe that upstate New York should vote differently because you cancel out our vote and you almost never think the same way that we do. So I think New York City should have to pay their own taxes their own way and deal with their own BS and stop asking upstate New York to do it. Those are my thoughts, and that's how I feel this morning, and it's how I felt last night. So that's where I'm at. Central and upstate New York, I love you to pieces. New York City, I have love for you, but just like any family, if I'm the younger brother or the older brother, put it this way. If I'm the younger brother, I don't want to pay for your sins. New York City's like the brother that always went out late, did drugs, and got in trouble, so now I can't do anything and I have a curfew. That's not how I feel. Upstate New York, we should be able to live our lives, make our own decisions, because 99.9% of the time we don't think the same. So New York City, you can have your taxes, and we'll take 4% tax, and you can keep your 8 or make it 12. And that's how I feel about it. So with that being said, that's my Charles Barkley, I guess, this morning. Let me talk to you about New York. So that's where I'm at today. But as always, Dave, I appreciate you. Thank you for everything you do. Always excited, even though we're not in the room together, whenever I'm watching an NBA game, first person on my mind, what's Dave thinking? Or I wonder, and getting excited to talk with you about it. So it's a first person that comes up when I'm watching the NBA. So I look forward to talking with you soon. Appreciate you as always, and thank you for everything.
All right, great to talk to you, Dan. I guess next time we talk will be into the finals one way or another, right?
Isn't that a crazy thing? Yes, sir. Yeah. We will. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you soon, Dan.
All right, take care. Coming from Dave Pasiak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll take our final step aside of the show. We'll be back right after this, where sports meets life.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Can't thank you enough for being a part of the show and tuning in with us. We had a fantastic show today with some wonderful, wonderful people. Our bi-monthly segment with Christy Salters-Martin, the International Boxing Hall of Famer,
domestic violence and domestic abuse thriver. I'm not going to call her a survivor. She is a thriver because she rose above everything to become the person she is today. Inside of Christy's Corner, our bi-monthly segment, proudly presented exclusively by PB&J's Lunchbox on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. And our special guest who is on this edition of Christy's Corner, Linds Edwards, who will be starring with Christy inside of an upcoming movie called Beatdown that I can't wait to see. Dave Pasiak on the NBA playoffs, as always. Appreciate my longtime basketball coach and analyst friend, Mr. Dave Pasiak. And, of course, the ingredients to success, which we gave you today on the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, and letting the world know that inside the NBA should get the NBA Finals. And that coming inside of the ingredients to success, proudly presented by the wonderful people at Avicolli's. And, of course, you can tune in to Wake Up Call every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com for internet streaming radio as well. Once the shows go live, they'll jump into the archive. There's plenty there, plenty more to be added to Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube, among others. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or one word Wake Up Call DT on any one of these outlets, and we look forward to seeing you there. We appreciate you as always for your support. And of course, a thanks to our incredible partners, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, PB&J's Lunchbox, MON-FRI's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Great Lakes Honda City, the former Honda City of Liverpool, as well as Mother's Cupboard, where you can get my signature sandwich. It is exclusive to Mother's Cupboard. You can go there any day of the week and get the Cuse McMother, my spin on the breakfast sandwich, which is bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Cut it up and eat it with syrup. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich 7 days a week. And as soon as you walk into Mother's Cupboard, you'll see a giant picture of it. And I love and support and appreciate everybody that's gone out there and gotten it. My community, you have responded so well. I'm happy you like the sandwich, and I look forward to you getting it again and again, exclusively at Mother's Cupboard on 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York. Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, as well as Canine Camp Dog Daycare, 317 at Montgomery Street, Pizza Man, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Chick-fil-A Watertown, and Avicolli's, as well as being the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Way Up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We appreciate you being with us every single month. Wednesday is Dolphin time at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, exclusive to Wake Up Call. First and third Wednesday of each month, AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Second and fourth Wednesday of each month, the Dolphin Dive, diving into stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. You can check out all of our content with Lemoyne being added throughout the months on the Lemoyne page on WakeUpCallDT.com and by subscribing to YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. As always, Fins Up, and you can find the Dolphins on LeMoyneDolphins.com. And you can also find, apparently, all my work being taken credit by other people on all of the outlets in Syracuse, New York. So happy to put food on your table. Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as well. The Bobcats come to you on the BSC Syracuse tab on WakeUpCallDT.com as content continues to jump into that library. And you can also find all of our Bobcat Buzz content by going to YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. The Bobcats, student athletes, administration, and coaches join us throughout the year and every single month here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, featuring national champions, as well as teams that advance to national tournaments, esports, cranking up here, and the inaugural season of baseball. You can find it all right here and only here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com, and as always, go Bobcats. I want to thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Big thanks to Christy Salters-Martin, Pat Orr, Linds Edwards, Dave Pasiak, and the wonderful team at Avicolli's. Have a fantastic day. Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, the Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. God willing, we'll see you tomorrow morning and Wednesday, May 24th, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and Dan Tortora Broadcast Media will unveil our newest Sunday at Carvel DeWitt, the DT Dolphin. And this poster will be hanging inside of Carvel DeWitt. The DT Dolphin will officially go on sale tomorrow. Perfect timing, because Wednesday is Sunday, and what that means, if you don't know what Wednesday is Sunday means, it's buy one, get one Sundays at Carvel every Wednesday. So a perfect time to come in is the day that our Sunday gets put on the menu, the DT Dolphin. On BOGO Day, we'll see you May 24th at 5 o'clock with Lemoyne College and my family as I get to officially bring my Sunday to life. Can't wait to get it tomorrow and look forward to y'all getting it as well. Have a great day. God bless. No stress. Do your best. Find us on our social media. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. And remember, the only opinion that matters is the one that you keep inside your head and inside your heart. That comes